Welcome friends to another r/IDontWorkHereLady video. If you want to help the work I do around here, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by First Lady of Whiterun, Men's Room Attendant. My husband just told me the story about something that happened to him last night, and I had to jump on here and share. My husband, a general officer who commands a military base, was attending an event on our base which he was to give a brief speech. He wasn't in uniform, but was wearing khaki pants and collared polo shirt with a military service emblem on it. He was leaning against the wall in the back, responding to emails when an elderly gentleman approached him. "You look like you work here," the gentleman said. My husband replied, "I don't work here at the club specifically, but I work on the base." The elderly man said, "Well, the men's room is a disaster. Could you possibly clean it up or get someone to do it?" "Okay," my husband said, and the gentleman walked off. Since he was still waiting, and figuring he might as well use the facilities before his speech, he decided to wander in the men's room to see what constituted a disaster. The big problem? The trash can was full to the top with paper towels. Having worked at McDonald's in high school, the word disaster associated with a restroom implied a lot worse to him. He pulled the bag out to see if there was another underneath so he could bag it up himself, but there wasn't. So he wanders back out and notices that the elderly gentleman and his wife were seated at a table just to the right of the speaker's podium. He's introduced and makes his way to the front. Just as he begins his speech, he hears, clear as a bell, from the right, an exclamation of, "I'll be darned." Unfortunately, he had to leave for another event after his speech, so he didn't get a chance to speak to the gentleman. He did, though, find a club employee to inform them of the disaster. If you found yourself in this situation when somebody comes up to you, would you tell them you don't work there? Would you say okay and then just not follow up at all? Or would you say okay and actually try to go find somebody to take care of the restroom? Let me know what you would do in the comments down below. Our next story is by OKConfusion777. Wholesome lady helped me when she didn't have to. Not crazy nor laughable, but greatly appreciate this kind of lady to this day. This was during my first year of college when I was starting to figure out how to take care of myself when I was sick. I was trying to get a tea strainer for some loose leaf tea that I got so I could drink tea and feel better since my throat hurt so much. Would have definitely stayed home if I lived with someone, but I was in a dorm at the time and no one I knew had a car on campus except for me. So my sick, very sniffly, slightly delusional self drove to Target to get myself a tea strainer. I don't shop at Target often, so I'm not the most familiar with the store, and for some reason the tea strainers were like an end cap for the card aisle. Anyways, I was looking everywhere, could not find it. Also somewhat out of it. Then I see a lady wearing a red shirt. The magical Target red shirt. Salvation has blessed me. I say, "Hi, would you happen to know where the tea strainers are?" She says, "Oh sweetie, I don't work here." I say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, thank you." Not too sure why I still said thank you, but I did. Like, thank you for dealing with my stupidity, and I thought that was the end of the interaction. A little while later, I'm searching for these gosh darn tea strainers, and this lady comes back with an employee that can definitely help me. She says, "Here's someone that can help you. Hope you feel better." I was very obviously sick and out of it, so she knew what was up, and I'm quite certain everyone in that town was used to absolutely clueless college kids. I still have that tea strainer. Oh, this little bit of a happy don't work here story makes someone smile. Honestly, people like this who go out of their way when they really don't have to are simply the best, especially when they can tell you're kind of sick, probably can assume you're kind of going through it. For them to drop whatever it was that they're doing or what they're looking for, find an employee, and then track you back down with said employee, just super kind of her. This next story is by SmoothXJ40. Wearing headphones while on the clock is unprofessional. Now help me. Little information heading into this. I work in the auto industry. Dealership parts department to be exact. This means I have a uniform, which is slacks, shoes, and a polo shirt and jacket in the automaker's colors with their name embroidered on the left chest. At the time of the incident, I worked for an auto manufacturer whose logo is a big T and an oval. The internal name is the Sombrero. This meant that my polo shirt was black with red sides and a huge red T logo along with a dealer's name on it. So here we go. Back in March, I'd just gotten off my late shift. The dealer I was with at the time was open till 7. On the way home, I stopped at Big Mart that used to be a smiley logo, where employees wear blue vests, to get some groceries for dinner, along with flowers for my dad and stuff, to make a cake for my mom's birthday. A lot of significant dates happen in the first 2 weeks of March for our family. When I go shopping, I usually put in my Bluetooth earbuds as I don't want to talk to people, and it helps deter those annoying cable, internet, power salespeople that roam the aisles of the store trying to sell you their crap. My headphones at the time were a pair of Adidas Adastar by Monster. They were Bluetooth with a cord between the two and a little inline controller on the right side. This is relevant later. Now, I'm in the store, it's about 7:25 p.m., and I've got my earbuds in. I'm in the baking aisle looking for castor sugar. Our Mart of Walls does carry it, and I notice someone off to my right. I don't think anything of it, it's a steady evening for them. This location's always busy. I finally settle on some sugar and go to reach for it when I feel a sharp pain in my ears, followed by someone yelling at me. I turn and yell, "What the heck?" And I'm face to face with a woman, maybe 40-ish, about my height, 5'10". She's dressed quite smartly, high-heel boots, leggings, an expensive-looking coat, shoulder-length hair, earrings that look painfully heavy, yelling at me and holding my headphones. She had grabbed the controller and yanked them out as I couldn't hear her talking at me. She starts telling me off that it's very unprofessional for me to be wearing headphones while working. How dare I talk to her like that, and that she's been trying to get my attention as she needs me to fetch her something. I snap back that I don't work there and demand my earbuds back. She responds that I obviously do from how I'm dressed and that I'm just lazy, then looks at my headphones in her hand with a smirk and says, "You won't be needing these," proceeds to throw them on the ground and starts stomping on them. I'm furious and start shouting at her what the freak makes her think I work here, and proceed to point at the logo on my shirt and call her a moron. At this point, a crowd started to gather at either end of the aisle to see what all the commotion is. I guess an employee had heard something and called a manager or security, as someone in a white business shirt with a company lanyard around their neck comes down the aisle to break us up and see what's happening. She immediately starts going off at him about how lazy and unprofessional his employees are, and how she wants to talk to corporate. He turns to me and starts to ask why I was ignoring her and wouldn't help her when he notices my shirt. "You don't work here, do you?" as he's staring at me. I say, "No, I work at insert dealer name up the road. I'm just here to pick up a few things, and this psycho attacked me." He apologizes and asks if she hurt me, and I responded just my ears when she yanked the earbuds out and stomped on them. She starts snarling that I'm lying, I'm a piece of poop, and that I need to be fired. He turns to her, picks my headphones up, and tells her that he does not approve of violence in his store, and that authorities are already on their way. The police station's a mile and a half from the store. He asks me to check my headphones to see if they work. Shocker, they don't. When she yanked the controller, it must have damaged the wires as the right one cuts in and out. I say as much. We've now been escorted to the front of the store by customer service, and sure enough, 2 officers are standing by the counter. They took statements from both of us, her flailing her arms about as she gave hers. One of the officers then went with the store manager to review the cameras. The entire time we were waiting with one officer, she keeps mouthing off how I'm gonna get in so much trouble when she's proven right and innocent, and that she hopes that they lead me off in cuffs. The officer with us just told her to be quiet till they were done. The manager and officer come back out after a few minutes, and the officer asks, "Would you like to press charges?" She starts going, "Yes, please, officer. I don't want someone like this out in public." His response, "I was actually talking to him," while gesturing to me. I say yes I would, as my ears still hurt and she broke my earbuds. She's spluttering and coughing like my little classic car on a cold morning, whining that she's the victim. They ask me if I can verify the amount the headphones cost when I bought them new, as she'll be required to reimburse me. Thank you, Big Blue Electronics Store, for online account purchases. In the end, she had to give me the $100 the earbuds had cost me new, which went towards my new Klipsch McLaren Edition T5 earbuds, and they escorted her out of the store. They gave me the flowers for my father's gravesite and a cake for my mom's birthday as an apology. It didn't end there though. She called the dealer I work at, because their name was embroidered on my shirt, to complain about me and the trouble I'd caused her. They called me into the owner's office to tell me that I caused a lot of drama over nothing and it makes the dealer look bad, and basically to not do it again. I wasn't fired, but that dealer was a terrible place to work. Stories for other Reddit subs I haven't yet discovered. I quit about 5 months later, and I've since changed dealerships to the Big Blue Oval. Honestly, this Karen's lucky that OP didn't get fired, because if OP did get fired directly for Karen calling their employer like that, there was probably a legal case to be had there. I mean, more than there already was to begin with. Our next story is by Skeekoak's Bath Bonnet. You're not an abusive butt? Let me help you. Please bear with me while I explain the crap part of this. One of my first jobs in the 90s was as the switchboard operator for one department at an investment firm. It was a weirdly complicated place that for some reason had like 5 different phone numbers that all went straight to me, and every broker/desk had a direct line that would bounce to me if they didn't answer. There was no individual voicemail except for execs. Naturally, the wrong number potential was devastating. I caught poop from brokers and clients from every direction for being the switchboard. One of our many useless contact numbers was previously assigned to AARP, American Association of Retired Persons, and daily, I had an expectation of one or more of, I was R-word, I was mean, I hated the elderly, did I know how old the caller was, how dare I be located in another state, and so many more. After a while, I started telling them to take it up with their phone company or AARP corporate. In case you wonder why I didn't just hang up, let me assure you, they'd call back many times. And also some less mature things like, you can't complain about me if you can't reach the right company, and weren't you notified? AARP revokes membership for people who are verbally abusive. Sassing the abusive greatest generation was the only thing that kept my Gen X self going some days. Now the positive part. It turned out that another of our toll-free numbers had been assigned to the Huntington's Disease Foundation. In case anyone's unfamiliar, Huntington's is a devastatingly debilitating, always fatal genetic syndrome. The foundation linked those with the disease and their families to specific resources, including support groups. Those wrong number callers were so nice, and were never surprised I wasn't in the same state as them, thank God. I genuinely felt terrible that they didn't have updated contact for support for their family. So I looked up the foundation's general number, called it, and asked what number I could give out. The head of the foundation sent a letter to my company's CEO, who had no idea who I was, thanking me for being an amazing human being whom they were lucky to have working for them. It was hilarious to see the confusion on the CEO's face when he tracked me down to show me the letter. He asked why I even took the time to do it, and I had to legit explain kindness to basically Ebenezer Scrooge. I didn't even know he was the CEO until he introduced himself, and I never saw him again afterward. Honestly, being able to help with that made me hate my job a little less for a couple of months before I bailed. Not a really outrageous story, but there you go. Imagine being so out of touch with reality that you find out one of your employees often gets their number mistaken for a foundation and asking why they bother to try to help those people out who get confused. Sorry, I forgot we were getting paid to be heartless around here. And our final story of the day is by Connery C. was more helpful than the Lowe's employees. Years ago, a new Lowe's opened in my town, and my coworkers and I, IT guys, would go to lunch at the nearby fast food places and then spend the rest of our lunchtime wandering around in the new Lowe's just to see what they had and how everything was laid out. As you know, Lowe's employees typically wear a red vest over business casual dress, plus a lanyard with their ID badge. Well, it didn't take long until we would be walking down an aisle as a group, 4 or 5 of us, and someone would walk up and ask us where to find certain items. Since we'd been wandering the store, we had a pretty good idea where things were, and since most of the guys with me were from the PC support desk, we had no problem telling them where something was if we knew. Some even mentioned that they had asked another employee, and they didn't know, as it was still a very new location. After this continued to happen, we started wondering why so many people were asking us for assistance. Then it clicked. We were dressed in business casual with a lanyard with our badges on, so the only thing we were missing was the vest. So after that, we always took our badges off when entering the store, and the requests for assistance stopped. This all happened back in the very early 2000s, so I don't think IDontWorkHereLady or Karens even existed yet. I'm sure what is the modern day Karen existed in that era, we just didn't acknowledge them as Karens back then. I feel as though Karens are a concept that transcends time, sadly. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.